Hi there, Danny Crouch, the listening coach from This Is My Time. Here we have the 4 Disciplines of Execution written by Chris McChesney and Sean Covey. That name may ring a bell. His father, reasonably famous, wrote 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You may have heard of it, and I'm sure he's written a couple of other books. This is basically the summary of the book, the 4DX principles, as they call them. And it helps you achieve your wildly important goals, or WIGs as they call them. Now, in our field, we definitely appreciate that there are auditory and visual learners, obviously listeners and readers. So if you're the type that likes to listen to these in your car or on your phone as you're walking to work or going for a run, or just simply listening to anything at any time in preference to reading, I thought this might be an advantage to you. I find these principles extremely interesting and amazing when it comes to applying to any aspect of your life, whether it's business, weight loss, health, relationships, well, maybe not so relationships, but pretty much any sort of goal you want to achieve or set. So you may have actually heard of them before, or they may have actually been presented in a different format. But it's a really good set of principles to run by. So I thought I'd just record it here, and those that want to listen can listen, those that want to read can read. I strongly advise or recommend, if you enjoy it, buy the book. You can get it from Amazon or iBooks or any pretty good bookstore, and I know it is available as an auditory file. So I'm just going to start reading this out. So the summary in brief. Do you remember the last major initiative you watched die in your organisation? Did it go down with a loud crash? Or was it slowly and quietly suffocated by other competing priorities? By the time it finally disappeared, it's likely no one even noticed. What happened? The whirlwind of urgent activity required to keep things running day to day devoured all the time and energy you needed to invest in executing your strategy for tomorrow. The 4 disciplines of execution can change all that forever. The 4 disciplines of execution, otherwise known as 4DX, is a simple, repeatable and proven formula for executing on your most important strategic priorities in the midst of the whirlwind. By following the 4 disciplines, focusing on the wildly important, acting on lead measures, keeping a compelling scoreboard, and creating a cadence of accountability, leaders can produce breakthrough results. 4DX is not theory. It's a proven set of practices that have been tested and refined by hundreds of organisations and thousands of teams over many years. When a company or individual adheres to these disciplines, they achieve superb results regardless of the goal. 4DX represents a new way of thinking and working that is essential to thriving in today's competitive climate. Now, some of you may have been passed on this recording or PDF from either myself or some coaches or friends within our community. You may be familiar with these principles throughout the BNI concept, Business Networking International. If you're a member of that group, this will be very, very simple to understand. So let me just go forward. In this summary, you will learn what the 4 disciplines of execution are and why they work, how to execute your strategic priorities and get results, how to affect change in human behaviour to achieve your goals, how to install the 4DX in your team and organisation. The real problem with execution. If you're leading people right now, you're probably trying to get them to do something different. Whether you lead a small work team or a whole company, a family or a factory, no significant result is achievable unless people change their behaviour. To be successful, you will need their commitment. Getting the kind of commitment that will endure in the midst of the daily grind is not easy. When you execute a strategy that requires a lasting change in the behaviour of other people, you're facing one of the greatest leadership challenges you will ever meet. With the 4 disciplines of execution, or 4DX, you are implementing a set of proven practices that meet that challenge successfully every time. The real enemy of execution is the whirlwind, the massive amount of energy that's necessary just to keep your operation going on a day-to-day basis. The 4 disciplines aren't designed for managing your whirlwind, but for executing your most critical strategy in the midst of your whirlwind. So part 1 is the 4 disciplines of execution. Discipline 1, focus on the wildly important. Focus your finest effort on 1 or 2 goals that will make all the difference. Instead of giving mediocre effort to dozens of goals, Execution starts with focus. Without it, the other three disciplines won't be able to help you. Identifying your wildly important goals, or WIGs. A wildly important goal is a goal that can make all the difference. You're going to commit to apply a disproportionate amount of energy to it, the estimated 20% that is not used up in the whirlwind. In determining your WIG, don't ask what's most important. Instead, begin by asking, if every other area of our operation remained at its current level of performance, what is the one area where change would have the greatest impact? Whether your WIG comes from within the whirlwind or outside it, your real aim is not only to achieve it, but also to then make the new level of performance a natural part of your team's operation. Focusing the organisation. Here are 4 rules to help you narrow the focus of your entire organisation. Rule number 1. No team focuses on more than 2 WIGs at the same time. The key is not to overload any single leader, team or individual performer. Rule number 2. The battles you choose must win the war. The sole purpose of WIGs at lower levels in the organisation is to help achieve the WIGs at higher levels. Rule number 3. Senior leaders can veto but not dictate. While the senior leaders will undoubtedly determine the top level WIG, they must allow the leaders at each level below to define the WIGs for their team. Rule number 4. All WIGs must have a finish line in the form of from X to Y by when. Every WIG at every level must contain a clearly measurable result, as well as the date by which that result must be achieved. Discipline 2. Act on the lead measures. While a lag measure tells you if you've achieved the goal, a lead measure tells you if you are likely to achieve the goal. For example, while you can't control how often your car breaks down on the road, a lag measure, you can certainly control how often your car receives routine maintenance, a lead measure. And the more you act on the lead measure, the more likely you are to avoid the roadside breakdown. We call them lag measures because by the time you get the data, the results have already happened. A lead measure is predictive, meaning that if the lead measure changes, you can predict that the lag measure will also change. A lead measure is also influenceable. It can be influenced by the team. It's the data on lead measures that enables you to close the gap between what you know your team should do and what they are actually doing. Without lead measures, you are left to try to manage to the lag measures, an approach that seldom produces significant results. Defining and tracking lead measures. Oakland Athletics General Manager Sandy Alderson and his management assistant manager Billy Bean brought together the best thinkers they could find on the subject. What produces wins? The answer, the highest number of runs. What are the lead measures that can create a run? They discovered that the mighty sluggers were often not all that productive. The most productive players were the ones who could just get on base. They could score runs much more reliably than power hitters who commanded astronomical salaries. What Bean did was to track the on-base record of players across the league and then recruit them from who were very good at getting on base. For a decade, the Oakland A's maintained the 5th best record in Major League Baseball while ranking 24th in player salaries. The Oakland management team reframed the game by acting on the lead measures that produce wins. If you are serious about your WIG, then you must create a way to track your lead measures without data. Without data, you can't drive performance on the lead measures. Without lead measures, you don't have leverage. I just read this, shooting for the moon. In 1961, President John F. Kennedy shook NASA to its foundations when he made the pronouncement, land a man on the moon and return him safely to the Earth before this decade is out. When the team moves from having a dozen we really hope goals to 1 or 2 no matter what goals, the effect on morale is dramatic. If you can throw that switch, you have laid the foundation for extraordinary execution. When Kennedy said to land the moon and back by the end of the decade, he threw that switch. If you don't quite understand that, there's a better explanation in the actual book. I won't go into detail here. So lead measures and engagement. Coming up with the right lead measure is really about helping everyone see themselves as strategic business partners and engaging them in dialogue about what can be done better or differently in order to achieve the WIGs. A good example is the advertising department of the Savannah Morning News. Their WIG was to close a serious revenue gap. The focus was spread across so many initiatives that they had taken their eyes off their main product. Everything changed when they started practicing Discipline 2, act on the lead measures. In the weekly WIG sessions, people committed to hit a certain number of new customers' contacts, reactivation calls and upsell offers. The newspaper closed its revenue gap and shot past its goals for the year. Discipline 3, keeping a compelling scorecard. The third discipline is to make sure everyone knows the scores at all times so that they can tell whether or not they're winning. This is a discipline of engagement. If the lead and lag measures are not captured on a visual scoreboard and updated regularly, they will disappear into the whirlwind. People disengage when they don't know the score. Great teams know at every moment whether or not they're winning. They must know, otherwise they don't know what they have to do to win the game. A compelling scoreboard tells the team where they are and where they should be. Information essential to team problem solving and decision making. When team members themselves are keeping score, they truly understand the connection between their performance and reaching their goal. And this changes the level at which they play. When everyone on the team can see the score, the level of play rises, not only because they can see what's working and what adjustments are needed, but also because they now want to win. There are 4 questions to ask when determining if the scoreboard is likely to be compelling to the players. Is it simple? Think about how many pieces of data the coach is tracking on the sideline. Coaches need this data to manage the game, but the scoreboard on the field shows only the data needed to play the game. Can I see it easily? It has to be visible to the team. The results become personally important to the team when the scoreboard is displayed where it can be seen by everyone. Does it show lead and lag measures? The lead measure is what the team can affect. The lag measure is the result they want. Can I tell at a glance if I'm winning? If you can tell within 5 seconds where you're winning or losing, you haven't passed this test. Keep in mind that their engagement is not because the organisation is winning or even that you as their leader are winning. It's because they are winning. The 4 disciplines and team engagement. Many believe that engagement drives results, and so do we. However, we know that results drive engagement. Nothing affects morale and engagement more powerfully than when a person feels he or she is winning. People will work for money and they will quit over money. But many teams are filled with people who are both well paid and miserable in their jobs. A winning team doesn't need artificial morale boosting. All the psyching up and rah-rah exercises companies do to raise morale aren't nearly as effective in engaging people as the satisfaction that comes from executing with excellence a goal that really matters. Discipline 4, create a cadence of accountability. The 4th discipline is to create a cadence of accountability, a frequently recurring cycle of accounting for past performance and planning to move the score forward. Discipline 4 is where execution happens. Disciplines 1, 2 and 3 set up the game, but until you apply discipline 4, your team isn't in the game. This is the discipline that brings the team members all together. In Discipline 4, your team meets at least weekly in a WIG session. This meeting lasts no longer than 20 to 30 minutes, has a set agenda and goes quickly, establishing your weekly rhythm of accountability for driving progress towards the WIG. Here's the 3-part agenda for a WIG session and the kind of language you should be hearing in the session. 1. Account. Report on commitments. I committed to make a personal call to 3 customers who gave us lower scores. I did, and here's what I learned. Number 2, review the scoreboard. Learn from successes and failures. Our lag measure is green, but we've got a challenge with one of our lead measures that just fell to yellow. Here's what happened. Number 3, plan. Clear the path and make new commitments. I'll meet with Bob on our numbers and come back next week with at least 3 ideas for helping us improve. To prepare for the meeting, every team member thinks about the same question. What are the 1 or 2 most important things I can do this week to impact the lead measures? Remember that the WIG session should move at a fast pace. The WIG session also gives the team the chance to process what they've learned. You should often ask each team member, what can I do this week to clear the path for you? Each commitment must meet 2 standards. First, the commitment must represent a specific deliverable. Second, the commitment must influence the lead measure. If you simply tell your team what to do, they will learn little. What you ultimately want is for each member of your team to take personal ownership of the commitments they make. A different kind of accountability. The accountability created in a WIG session is not organisational, it's personal. Instead of accountability to a broad outcome you can't influence, it's accountability to a weekly commitment that you yourself made and that is within your power to keep. When members of the team see their peers consistently following through on the commitments they make, they learn that the people they work with can be trusted to follow through. When this happens, performance improves dramatically. The WIG session encourages experimentation with fresh ideas. It engages everyone in problem solving and promotes shared learning. 40X produces results, not from the exercise of authority, but from the fundamental desire of each individual team member to feel significant, to do work that matters, and ultimately to win. Part 2. Installing 40X within your team. What to expect. 40X is not a set of guidelines, but a set of disciplines. Installing 40X will require your finest efforts, but the payoff will be a team that performs consistently and with excellence. Most teams go through 5 stages of behaviour change. Stage 1. Getting clear. Success starts by getting to crystal clarity on the WIG and the 40X process. The key actions in implementing 40X are: be a model of focus on the WIG, or WIGs, identify high leverage lead measures, create a player's scoreboard, and schedule a WIG session at least weekly. Stage 2. Launch. Some keys to a successful launch are: recognise that a launch phase requires focus and energy, especially from the leader. Remain focused and implement the 40X process diligently, and identify your models, potentials, and resistors. Stage 3. Adoption. Recognise that adoption of the 40X process will take time. Keys to successful adoption of 40X are: focus first on adherence to the process and then on results. Make commitments and hold each other accountable in WIG sessions. Track results on a visible scoreboard. Make adjustments as needed. Invest in the potentials through additional training and mentoring, and answer straightforwardly any issues with resistors and clear the path for them if needed. Stage 4. Optimization. Encourage and recognise abundant creative ideas for moving the lead measures. Recognise excellent follow-through and celebrate success. Stage 5. Habits. Keys to help the team make 40X habitual are: celebrate the accomplishment of the WIG. Move immediately onto new WIGs to formalise 40X as your operating system. Emphasise that your new operating standard is sustained superior performance on lead measures, and help individual team members become high performers by tracking and moving the middle. If you could move the middle towards the summit of performance, the impact on results would be significant. You do that by consistently motivating new and better behaviour, which is the aim of 40X. I'll just read a little side note here. Make sure the WIG is achievable. We often encounter leaders who believe in setting goals that are far beyond anything their team can achieve, while privately acknowledge that they'll be satisfied if they get 75% of the goal. This type of gamesmanship can significantly undermine your ability to drive engagement and results. We're not advocating goals that are easy to reach. Set a goal that challenges the team to rise to their highest level of performance, but not beyond it. Installing Discipline 1. Focus on the wildly important. Superb team performance begins with selecting 1 or 2 WIGs. Focusing on these vital few goals is the foundational principle of 40X. Without it, your team will get lost in the whirlwind. Step 1. Consider the possibilities. Begin by brainstorming possible WIGs. Brainstorm the peer leaders, especially if you are all focusing on the same organisational WIG. Brainstorm with your team members or with a representative group. Brainstorm alone. Ideally, both the leader and the team participate in defining the WIGs. No involvement, no commitment. Step 2. Rank by impact. When you're satisfied with your list of candidate team WIGs, you're ready to identify the ideas that promise the greatest potential impact on the overall organisational WIG. Avoid the trap of selecting WIGs that improve the team's performance but might have little to do with achieving the overall WIG. Step 3. Test top ideas. Once you've identified a couple of high-impact WIG candidates, test them against 4 specific criteria. Is the team WIG aligned to the overall WIG? Is it measurable? As one of our clients put it, if you're not keeping score, you're just practicing. Who owns the results? Our team or some other team? Does the team have at least 80% ownership of the result? Who owns the game? The team or the leader? If the WIG depends too much on the functions that only the leader performs, the team will quickly lose interest in the game. Step 4. Define the WIG. Once you've selected and tested your ideas for high-impact team WIGs, make them as clear and measurable as possible. Define the WIGs according to these rules. Begin with a verb. Simple verbs focus the mind immediately on action. For example, cut costs or add one plant. Define the lag measure. Lag measures tell you if you've achieved the goal. They mark a precise finish line for the team. Write lag measures in the format from X to Y by when. Keep it simple. Most organisational goals are vague, complex and pretentious. Focus on what, not how. Many teams define a clear goal by then complicate it by adding a lengthy description of how the goal will be achieved. The WIG should focus exclusively on what the team plans to achieve. Installing Discipline 2, act on the lead measures. Acting on the lead measure is essential to support performance, but is also the single most difficult aspect of installing WIGs in your team. There are 3 reasons for this. 1. Lead measures can be counterintuitive. 2. Lead measures are hard to keep track of. 3. Lead measures often look simple. For example, a retail store shows this lead measure for driving sales. Limit out of stock on top items to 20 or fewer per week. But if this simple lever is applied inconsistently, customers who can't find what they want will not return. Just as simple as a simple lever can move on a big rock, a good lead measure provides powerful leverage. Step 1, consider the possibilities. Begin by brainstorming possible lead measures. A famous example of a productive lead measure is the 15% rule at 3M company, requiring the research team to devote 15% of their time on projects of their choice. Author Jim Collins comments, "No one is told what products to work on, just how much to work, and that loosening of the controls has led to a stream of profitable innovations. 3M sales and earnings have increased more than 40-fold since instituting the 15% rule." Step 2, rank by impact. We often hear team members say, "We need to do all of these things." No doubt they are all good things to do, but the more you try to do, the less energy you have to give to anyone thing. Narrowing the focus to a few lead measures permits stronger leverage. Step 3, test top ideas. Test high leverage lead measures against these 6 criteria. Is it predictive? If the idea fails this test, even if it's a good idea, eliminate it. Is it influential? Ask if the team has at least 80% control over the measure. Is it an ongoing process or a once and done? The ideal lead measure is a behaviour change that becomes habitual and brings continuous improvements. Is it a leader's game or a team game? The behaviour of the team must drive the lead measure. Lead measures connect the team to the WIG, but only if the teams play the game. Can it be measured? If the WIG is truly wildly important, you must find ways to measure new behaviours. Is it worth measuring? If it takes more effort than its impact is worth or has serious unintended consequences, it fails the test. Step 4, define the lead measures. Answer these questions as you put the lead measures in a final form. Are we tracking team or individual performance? Tracking team results allows for differences in individual performance while still enabling the team to achieve the outcome. Are we tracking the lead measure daily or weekly? Daily tracking creates the highest level of accountability because it demands the same performance from every associate every day, where weekly tracking allows for varying performance each day as long as the overall result for the week is achieved. What is the quantitative standard? In other words, how much, how often, how consistently are we supposed to perform? What is the qualitative standard? In other words, how well are we supposed to perform? Does it start with a verb? Simple verbs focus the mind immediately on action. Is it simple? State your lead measure in as few words as possible. The deliverable for Discipline 2 is a small set of lead measures that will move the lag measure on the WIG. Installing Discipline 3. Keep a compelling scoreboard. We found that the more the team is involved in designing the scoreboard, the more the scale is tipped to instill their ownership. Choose a theme. Choose a theme for your scoreboard that displays clearly and instantly the measures you are taking. You have several options: trend line, speedometer, bar chart, and on, stoplight, or personalized. We've seen even the most serious-minded individuals jump into this effort. Cardiac nurses put surgical instruments on the scoreboard. Engineers set up flashing lights. When the scoreboard becomes personal, they become engaged. Step 2. Design the scoreboard. The team should design the scoreboard with these questions in mind. Is it simple? Can the team see it easily? Does it contain both lead and lag measures? Can we tell at a glance if we are winning? Step 3, build the scoreboard. Let the team build the scoreboard. The greater their involvement, the better. The most teams embrace the opportunity to create their own scoreboard and often volunteer their own time for it. You can put up an electronic sign, a poster, a whiteboard, or even a chalkboard, as long as it meets the design standards discussed here. Step 4, keep it updated. The design of the scoreboard should make it easy to update at least weekly. If the scoreboard is hard to update, you'll be tempted to put it off when the whirlwind strikes. The leader should make very clear who is responsible for the scoreboard, when it will be posted, and how often it will be updated. The deliverable for Discipline 3 is a scoreboard that keeps the team engaged. It's the sense of winning that drives engagement. You'll see that every time you update the scoreboard. Installing Discipline 4. Create a cadence of accountability. Avoid the common pitfalls that undermine the cadence of accountability. Competing whirlwinds responsibilities. Holding WIG sessions with no specific outcomes. Repeating the same commitment more than 2 consecutive weeks. Accepting unfulfilled commitments when a team member fails to keep a commitment. You face the moment that matters most. Here are steps to handle this important moment in the WIG session along with sample dialogue. Step 1. Demonstrate respect. Susan, Jeff, I want you to know that the event last week was a huge success, and without you, it could have been a disaster. Susan shows Jeff that she respects him as a team member, but she also shows the team that she respects the whirlwind. Step 2. Reinforce accountability. Susan, Jeff, I also want you to know how important your contribution is to the team. Without you, we can't reach our goal. Because Susan has made it clear that she respects Jeff and the demands of the whirlwind, Jeff should be able to see the importance of doing his best for the team. Step 3. Encourage performance. Susan, Jeff, I know you want to help us follow through. Can we count on you to catch up next week by fulfilling last week's commitment as well as the one you were planning on making for next week? Susan gives Jeff the opportunity to report with real pride that all commitments have been fulfilled. Discipline 4 keeps your team in the game every week, as the members connect their personal contributions to the most important priorities of the organisation. With this comes not only the awareness that they are winning on a key goal, but that they have become a winning team, which is the ultimate return on the investment you make in 40X. The deliverables for Discipline 4 is a regular, frequent WIG session that moves the lead measures. Part 3, installing 40X in your organisation. Best practices from the best. Dave Grissom, president of the Americas for Marriott International, began by implementing the 4 disciplines in 8 pilot hotels. These produced results so significant that his team ultimately implemented 40X in more than 700 Marriott hotels over the next 2 years. Here are his insights. First, design your implementation to fit your culture. Second, realize that it's harder to implement the 4 disciplines in an organization that's already very successful. Third, the senior leader must focus on holding all leaders accountable. Fourth, make sure you have the infrastructure to support your implementation. Fifth, remember that implementing the 4 disciplines will raise the engagement of your team. Everyone from our frontline staff to our management teams to our COOs understand how what they are doing impacts the company. And this gives our employees a strong voice. Everyone can make a difference. For great business skills or great life skills, the 4 disciplines is an all-encompassing process about how you hold yourself accountable, how you hold others accountable, and ultimately how you execute better. Rolling out 40X across the organisation. Even though the 4 disciplines are easy to understand, in the end they are still disciplines. It takes real work to make them an established part of an organisation, operation and culture. The following are the key aspects of our approach. The 4 disciplines must be implemented as a process, not an event. The 4 disciplines must be implemented with intact teams. The 4 disciplines must be implemented by the leader. The 4DX installation process. The 6-step installation process leads not only to results, but, more important, to adoption of an operating system for achieving your most important organisational goals over and over again. Step 1. Clarify the overall WIG. Step 2. Design the team WIGs and lead measures. This step usually requires 2 full days. Step 3. Leader certification. In this critical step, which usually requires a full day, the leaders learn how to launch 40X with their teams. Step 4. Team launch. Leaders schedule and conduct a team launch meeting that usually lasts about 2 hours. In this session, they also design the team scoreboard and assign responsibility for its completion. Step 5. Execution with coaching. Leaders typically need experienced guidance for about 3 months as they foster new behaviours and encounter unexpected challenges. Our experienced consultants coach leaders while developing strong internal coaches for the organisation. Step 6. Quarterly summits. Leaders report to their senior leaders on progress and results in the presence of their peers. Bringing it home. It happens all the time. People approach us after a 4DX work session, look around to make sure no one is listening and whisper, "Do you think 4DX would work in my personal life?" Our answer, absolutely. The principles of focus, leverage, engagement and accountability seem to work at any level. We know people who have used 4DX to achieve all kinds of life goals, running a marathon, finishing a degree, learning a new sport, even blending two families. So many of the wildly important things in our lives never get the attention we should give them because they aren't urgent. Caring for our health, helping for our children, getting more education, strengthening our marriage, these things tend to take second place to the whirlwind of urgencies that require our attention right now. Do we think 4DX can apply to your personal life? Our answer is a resounding yes. In fact, we think the principles can help you to achieve any great purpose you have in mind. There's a recommended reading list. If you like the 4 disciplines of execution, you also like The Advantage by Patrick Lencioni, Change the Culture, Change the Game by Roger Connors and Tom Smith, Escape Velocity by Jeffrey A. Moore. So just to recap, the 4 disciplines of execution. So first of all, design your WIG. Second is design your lead measures, so what you plan on doing for the coming week to achieve your WIG. Third is to create a scoreboard. So monitor whether you achieved your lead measures and then result on your lag measures. And step 4 is accountability. So have the team celebrating the victories and work on the areas of improvement. Now, as you can see, this is the SoundView Executive Book Summaries. It can be found online. It's a free PDF. If you haven't got a copy, ask the person who gave it to you. If it was me, I'll be happy to send it to you if I haven't already. And here's the recording. Feel free to share it around. It's for yours or to whoever needs it or uses it or wants to listen to it. And to put it into perspective of why I might be sharing it with you, as you know, I'm a listening coach from This Is My Time. We have a core group of coaches, anywhere from strength coaches, values and belief coaches, coaches in asking better questions, motivation, vision to improvement, clarity, reciprocity, synchronicity, you name it, there's a wide range. We also look at weight loss groups and a lot of other areas of personal growth, and we apply these 4 disciplines of execution. So whether it's your own business, whether it's your own relationships, we can apply it in any sort of format. Just contact us either at the MyQuest page on Facebook, MYQUEST, or you can contact me, Danny Crouch, at This Is My Time, or contact one of the coaches on the MyQuest page or one of the editors. Basically, we write and put together books, so if you want to write a chapter about your story, get in touch, or if you just want to drive your business, get more customers to your business, or if you want to lose weight, fix up that relation, all those things that we're explaining above. But if you enjoyed this, trust me when I say, if you haven't read the book, it's an awesome book. I've read it, and it changed my whole aspect on life. But as I said, enjoy. Let me know what you think of it. And if you see it on Facebook, drop a comment in there. I'll post it pretty much straight away. And thanks for listening. And it's a pleasure to know you. I'm Danny Crouch, the listening coach at This Is My Time. All the best. Bye.